go from there. Okay, so thanks for joining me, everyone. This is Ed Crow. Appreciate your time today. I always try to be efficient with people's time, or aware of their time. When I do these webinars, they're usually about 15 minutes. This one's a little more involved, so it'll probably be about half an hour. I am recording it. I'll send you the recording, and I think we'll get started here. Oh, I do have a bunch of new names on here for those not familiar. Crow & Associates, we're an FMO out of Brookfield, Connecticut. Work with all lines of business. Medicare is our specialty, but we work with everything. For future reference, on Thursday, we have a webinar that we're doing that's going to go over our online quoting engine that quotes all lines of business, free to agents, and also our online enrollment for Medicare Advantage Supplement Part D. We're doing that Thursday, and then Friday we're going over the new nationwide national dental plan, which looks good all the way around, including comp benefits and everything. So maybe something you'd be interested in. Both webinars, Thursday and Friday, are at 12 o'clock. So today, we're going to talk about how to sell Medicare online and through the phone. A couple quick things before we get started. This information, I'm speaking from personal experience. I've for years sold online and through the phone before COVID and before it became popular. That's something I did, so I learned a lot from trial and error. I also have the luxury of talking to a lot of agents and agencies that sell online and through the phone. So kind of took best practices, put them together, and that's what you're going to get here today. There's some areas where you might want more detail. I just can't do it today, just so I can keep the webinar at a reasonable length. But I think this will give you everything you need to get started if you want to sell from home or, via online sales or through the phone. So we'll talk about today what you need to be prepared to sell. Go through the presentation, meaning, the presentation that we actually do when we're working with people on the phone and making a phone or online sale. Talk about the follow-up process you do with them, is how you're going to secure that application, and then at the end just talk about submitting it. Oh, and I know I've said it a million times, but if you have questions, sorry for those who keep hearing it over and over, if you have questions, just send them into the question box in the webinar and I will answer them at the end. Okay, so to do the strategy, what do you need to be prepared to sell? So the first thing, and this one's pretty obvious, but you need to be contracted with the most competitive companies. Certainly, there's exceptions to the rule. I get some agents that they'll pick one or two carriers and they've got a process and they're just going to sell those plans. Ideally, though, it would be best to have the most competitive Advantage plans, Supplement, and Part D plans in a given market. That way, when you're doing this consultative approach to a sale, you can accommodate anything. Of course, with that comes more work, certifications, AHIP, that kind of thing. So this can certainly be tweaked. Maybe you just sell supplements, maybe you just sell Advantage, maybe you only sell a couple companies. You can still use this approach, but it works best if you have all the carriers available, or all the competitive ones anyway. So again, to do this, it's best to have Supplements, Advantage, and Part D. You can certainly do it with just one. Maybe you just sell Supplements or just Advantage. But if you got all of them, it works best, because sometimes you'll just get a client. Even if you just sell supplements, you'll get a client who says, well, I want a zero plan. Or you'll get a client that is really sick or doesn't want a network and simply does not want an Advantage plan. So if you can pivot and offer them any product, it works best. Not required, but it certainly helps. To find these products, what you'd want to do is use the quote site. I get a lot of calls to the office, people asking, like, what's a good plan in Virginia, or what's a good plan in Tennessee? Who's got the best supplement rate? All that is available on our quote engine. You have access to it for free. As long as you have one contract with us of any kind, you have access to it. And you can use it and you can quickly identify and compare plans and see what works best, regardless of the line of business. I threw a note in there just so I don't forget to mention it. Sometimes I get people who say, I want to sell Advantage plans as well, but I don't want to take AHIP. Well, one company does allow you to do that. Believe it or not, United Healthcare does not require AHIP. So if you're somebody who sells mostly supplements, but you want to add an Advantage in Part D, if you certify with United, you don't have to do AHIP, you just certify, you can sell their AARP supplements, their Medicare Advantage, and their Part D plans without AHIP. So if you're against AHIP, that is a way you can have access at least to one Advantage in Part D plan, or multiple Advantage in Part D plans with one company without taking AHIP. To use the quote engine, that I just referred to earlier, you'd go to www.pfsinsurance.com. You will need a username and password, but like I said, as long as you have one contract with us, there's already one made for you. You probably just don't know it, and we can give it to you. So you can call us, you can call Pinnacle, you can email us, and we'll get that to you. Suffice it to say, to use this strategy, you need to understand Medicare A and B. Some people might roll their eyes there, but I think one of the things I see that blows up sales is a lot of times we have people selling plans and they really don't understand Medicare A and B benefits. It makes it hard if you don't understand A and B. Kind of difficult then to explain to somebody why they need a supplement or how an advantage works. So you really need to understand the Medicare A and B benefits, and you need to know the enrollment process for A and B. So what I mean by that is you got to know who's auto-enrolled and who isn't. There certainly isn't a session today to go over all those details, but just making you aware of it. Most of you probably know, anybody who's already receiving Social Security payments, they get auto-enrolled in Medicare A and B. If they're not receiving Social Security payments, they got to manually sign up, and they can do that online. There's a link to do it. What I do is I have that link saved, and whenever I talk to a prospect who isn't getting Social Security, so I know they'll need to enroll in A and B, I send them the link to do it online. You got to understand IRMA. So IRMA obviously is the penalty. It's not called a penalty, but it's the extra amount. It really is a penalty, though. It's the extra amount of money somebody pays towards their Part B premium and Part D premium if they make over a certain amount of income. We have an IRMA grid that I'm going to show you at the end here. So got to tell people how to sign up online, have the link handy just to send out to them, and you got to have the IRMA grid ready. You can send to them because you will get some people that are going to pay more for their Part B premium and their Part D premium, and you got to make them aware of it. If you don't tell them and they get surprised by it, it's not going to go well. As I mentioned, A and B benefits, got to know how Medicare Part A works, got to know the cost share for B, the deductibles. You got to be up on all of that stuff. You're going to need online enrollment through Connect for Medicare. Certainly helps to have that. If you have Connect for Medicare, you can enroll people online. It's critical to this strategy. It's not a deal breaker, but it certainly helps. So if you have Connect for Medicare, which we give it to you for free, Connect for Medicare allows you to enroll people online in Medicare Advantage, Part D, and supplements, and when you're on the phone, that is really needed. Prior to Connect for Medicare, I still made this strategy work, but it certainly has become much easier now that it's available. And again, if you have contracts with us, you have access to Connect for Medicare's username and password. We would just have to provide that to you. Using Connect for Medicare, you can send electronic scopes. That's important when you're selling Advantage and Part D. You can compare plans and medications. It's just like the CMS site. You can enter their drugs, compare and see which Advantage plan or which Part D plan has the lowest overall cost on the medications. And Connect for Medicare will save their drug list, and it'll save your applications as well. So it works kind of like the CMS site, but better because you don't need a profile to do it. It'll save all your drug lists, so next year when you want to run them, you can do it easily. And it is a basic CRM that will save all the clients' contact information and their applications as well. Right now, I have a typo already in my presentation, which isn't good, but right now on Connect for Medicare, when you get somebody set up to enroll online, you send them the enrollment link via email. That's good, but sometimes you get duals or other people who still, believe it or not, aren't set up on email. So starting in 2021, that's the typo in my presentation, in 2021, Connect for Medicare is going to send that enrollment link electronically via email or text. So if you get a dual or a client who isn't email friendly, it'll text them as well because there's a good chance these days that they'll have a phone. So if they don't have access to email, they definitely will probably have a phone, and you can text or email it to them, which helps. The fail-safe here is have application kits to mail out. I know some agents have these, some don't, but once in a while, you'll get somebody who says, I don't use email, I don't have a smartphone, I don't do text, I don't have a fax machine at home or a printer. So you want to sometimes have some application kits you can simply mail out to them. So you can have these kits ready for the main plans you usually sell or the more popular plans. Mark these apps up, put X's, make it obvious where they got to sign. Give them a return envelope, a postage paid return envelope to send it back to you. Get their commitment. Don't just send them out a kit because they say mail me something. The kit is for somebody who says, I want to enroll, but I don't have email, text. You can't email me a paper app because I don't have a fax or a printer. Have application kits to mail. Send them out marked up, obvious, with a return envelope, and by all means code them. See that a lot still. Agents will mail out a kit, a paper kit to somebody. They get their commitment that they want to enroll, which you need to get if you're going to waste your time mailing out a kit. They get their commitment that they want to enroll, and they don't put their broker name and code on it. Make sure you do that. Don't sign it. Put your name and your code on the application. That way, if they send it direct to the carrier, you still get paid on it. The only time you ever sign an app as the broker is when you actually receive it. So if you never receive it, you don't sign it, but you'll still get paid on it. Last thing I'll say about this, if somebody fills out an app and dates it and you don't get it back in the mail for 6 days, don't worry about it. Your signature date doesn't have to match. You sign it for when you received it, and then it has to be submitted within 24 or 48 hours to the carrier from when you received it and signed it and dated it. But have those kits ready. Again, some brokers don't do that. They only do online enrollment, or they will email applications to clients. They have a printer and a fax machine or a printer and a scanner. They don't bother with that third step of having a kit to mail out, but they definitely give up some business that way. Okay, so that's the setup. So how is the presentation done? Well, it can be done by phone. I've done a ton of them by phone over the years. I know a lot of other people that have too. Certainly if you can do it online, it's better. And if you can run through the presentation online, what I would recommend is use a free screen share. ScreenLeap is a good one. So ScreenLeap.com is a free screen share. It's super easy to use. You simply have your client go to the website. You can send them the link if you want, the hyperlink to go on it, or just tell them what the site is. It's just ScreenLeap.com. On your end, you send them a code. They put in the code, and then it's sharing your screen. So you can do the presentation with them. So you can go over it with them online. If not, this works by phone. It's simple enough to work by phone, and it does. I used to do it by phone all the time, but now they've got things like ScreenLeap available. If they have a computer screen, it certainly makes it easier. At the end of the slide, end of the presentation rather, I'll show you the slide that you would use, slides, I should say plural, that you would use for your presentation. So for your presentation, this is basically how it's going to go. I didn't even put this part on there, but obviously you want to tell them who you are and how you do business. Tell them you're independent, you work with multiple carriers. Key thing is tell them you don't charge anything. A lot of times I take that for granted. I've gone through presentations and people have nervously said, well, what do we owe you? And I realized then I forgot to say, the carriers pay me. I don't charge you anything. So make sure that part. Tell them how you do business. You know, you got access to multiple companies, exactly how you're going to do things. You're going to run the drugs for them, find the best plan, explain to them what you're going to do. Once you do that, then you get going and started. So the first thing you do is explain to them how to get Medicare A and B. We talked about it earlier. Explain the time frames. Now you're turning 65 on August 5th. Okay, you're going to be an August 1 start date for A and B. They won't know that, believe it or not. One little strange thing to remember, and I forget sometimes, if somebody's birthday falls on the 1st, so like August 1st is their actual birthday, remember their Medicare starts the 1st of the month before. It's a little random fact. I always tend to forget myself as well. So you tell them the time frame they started with A and B. If they don't draw Social Security, they're going to need to enroll online. Have the link ready to email out to them so they can just click on it and enroll in A and B online. Delayed Part B enrollments were always an issue. Up until now, you could not do a delayed Part B enrollment online. You could only do initial enrollment online. So if somebody worked for a company and they were 67, didn't have Part B and needed it, they had to fill out the employment verification form, either go to the Social Security office or call Social Security. That changed now. Now they can actually do a delayed Part B enrollment online. It is a separate link, and you should have that ready and available for them as well. Getting a bunch of people coming on now. Just wanted to mention, I'm going to record this and send it out, and I will answer questions at the end. So if you've got questions, just send them into the webinar. So delayed Part B can now be done online. The employment verification form can also be done online. So that's a big change, and it makes our lives a whole lot easier when it comes to phone and online enrollments. So you're going to do a quick review of Medicare A and B with them. You've told them how you do business, told them what to expect, what you're going to do as far as the process. You're going to narrow it down. Do they need an Advantage supplement or a supplement? Pros and cons. We'll talk about that in a minute. You're going to give them a quick review of A and B. Talk about A is the hospital, B is for outpatient. Explain the cost share. Now, if you don't want to get into all the copays, like hospital has a deductible and the deductible for Part B, you can say actuarially it's an 80-20 benefit, because it is from an actuarial standpoint. It's structured in copays, the cost share of A and B, but ultimately, from an actuarial standpoint, it's an 80-20. It's up to you. Determine with your audience if you really want to get into the details of the copays and cost shares specifically with A and B, or if you want to generalize and say it's an 80-20. You can do it either way. The key thing is to keep this simple. If you complicate the information, you're going to lose their interest, especially if you're not face-to-face with them, which here you won't be. So keep it simple. Remember, don't complicate things. Just want to give them a basic idea of how A and B works and why they would need an Advantage plan or a supplement. Then you explain to them they have two options to consider. They're either going to go with a Medicare supplement and a drug plan or a Medicare Advantage plan. And you say, and that's my job, is to help determine which one works better for you. And once we do that, then because I have multiple companies, I'm going to find the company that fits best for that kind of plan with the best drug coverage and such. So when you explain there are two options, I always start with the supplement first. I think it's easier to do it that way. Simply make it clear to them. When you have a supplement, your Medicare stays primary. Give them an example. It sounds silly, but you really should. Makes it more clear to them. And you would say to them, okay, with the Medicare supplement, the way it works is we talked about A and B with 80% coverage. When you use a supplement, your Medicare stays primary, and your doctor, your hospital, your labs, they all bill Medicare. The 20% that Medicare doesn't pay, that's sent to your supplement, and your supplement pays some or all of it, depending on the supplement that you purchase. So you've got original Medicare as your primary insurance, and then the supplement is secondary to it, and will cover what's left over, depending on the plan we choose. Usually you're going to use plans G and N. Don't give them too many supplements. If they say, why, what about a high deductible F? Then certainly talk about it. But if you have a state, which most do, that has good G or N rates, then you work with G and N. It keeps it simpler. And when I talk about it, I start with G, explain how that works, because it's easy. G covers everything other than the Part B deductible. And then I explain N. And it's just like G, doesn't cover the Part B deductible, but there's two other things N doesn't cover. Doctors can bill you up to $20, and you pay $50 for the emergency room. Okay, so you keep it simple. That's the key here. Explain to them that supplements don't cover drugs. So if they're going to go with the supplement route, they'll need to buy a standalone Part D drug plan, and you'll help them find the one that fits best simply by entering their drugs in Connect for Medicare and finding out which drug plan has the lowest overall cost for them. Then usually what I do is give them a quick positives and negatives when it comes to a supplement. Why would they want a supplement, or why might they not want one? Well, positives. Supplements have no network. I explain that to them. You can choose the benefits you want. We know what you're getting. They're finite benefits. Plan G, Plan N, high deductible G. There's no managed care with a supplement, meaning you don't need prior authorization for an MRI for certain testing like you do with an Advantage plan. Those are the positives. Negatives, obviously the premium. You've got your Part B premium, the supplement premium, and the drug plan premium. They need to buy a separate drug plan, so they're going to have three plans: Medicare, the supplement, and the drug plan. Supplements don't give them much, if anything, for ancillary benefits other than a gym membership, so there's no vision, dental, OTC. So you give them the positives and negatives of the supplement. Just help them simply frame it and understand how a supplement works and what the pros and cons are. Then you swing over to your Medicare Advantage, and you say, when you use an Advantage plan, it replaces original Medicare, and use an example. They won't know what that means necessarily. So you say to them, when you have Medicare, you're going to pay for Part B still, but With an Advantage plan, it replaces it. The Advantage becomes your primary plan. So the doctors, the hospitals, the labs, instead of billing Medicare, they're going to bill the Advantage plan. And I always say to them, it's similar to a group health plan, because it is if you think about it, especially if they had a group health plan previously. You can say, well, it's just like your group health plan. You pay copays for medical services, copay for primary specialist, bigger copay for hospital. Just give them a reference point and make them understand to an extent, how it works. And you say to them, your drug plan is just like on your group health plan, your drug plan is built into the Advantage plan. And once I do that, and I'm going quicker than I necessarily would with a client, but you guys are in the business, and I think I can paraphrase and skip over a bit, but you get the idea. So you go over positives and negatives. So positives are, there's no premium if you're using a zero premium plan. No premium, you remind them they're still going to pay for Part B. Positive is the drug plan's included, and there will be full preventative and ancillary benefits, annual physical covered in full. All the ACA routine services are covered in full, the preventative services. And then you've got your ancillary benefits. You'll get dental, vision, transportation maybe, depending on the plan. Over-the-counter benefit. You explain those things to them, and that those are positives of taking an Advantage plan. Well, what are the negatives? Like anything else, there's negatives. Well, your copays. If you have a horrifically bad year, while the copays are reasonable, if you have a really bad year, your plan you could wind up spending up to your out-of-pocket max for the year. And you explain that to them a little bit. Give them an example of that. People tend to think that one huge hospital stay will max out their plan. And explain to them it won't. It's volume that hurts on an Advantage plan, not one big claim. Advantage plans are managed care plans, so there's going to be prior authorization on services that you wouldn't have on original Medicare. And then lastly, Advantage plans have networks. So unlike a supplement where you go to anywhere that participates with Medicare, Advantage plans have specific networks. Make it clear to them, though, that if they go with an Advantage plan, your job is to match up the drugs, match up the doctors. You'll do that work for them, but they got to be aware of it. Then I usually give them an example of who might take an Advantage plan versus who may take a supplement. And to do that, I usually ask them some questions. How often do you receive medical care? They'll give you feedback on that. I go to the doctor twice a year. Okay, well, you're working with potentially an Advantage client. You know what? I went to the doctor 5 times a month last year, hospitalized 3 times. Well, probably going to push more towards a supplement then. Or maybe they'll give you a different clue. My friend said Advantage plans are awful. I usually don't swim too much upstream on that. If they have that preset thought in their mind, I'll probably say, okay, well, let's look at supplements then. When I was younger, I used to say, well, no, let me show you the Advantage anyway. It might work better. And I found that if you convince them to take an Advantage, if any little thing goes wrong, they're going to blame you. So I usually try not to fight it too much. Fine line between educating them and doing what they want. I tend to, if they really push and say, I don't want a plan, I don't want anything to do with the network. All right, well, we'll go the supplement route. But asking these questions will help you and them determine what works better. If you do this right, you shouldn't really have to convince them. 99% of the time, they should say, I think I'm more of a supplement person. Or based on what you're saying, I think I should start off with an Advantage plan. Let them determine. That's the best way to sell, right, is to have them tell you what they want. So once you go over pros and cons of Advantage versus supplement, they usually will have a pretty good inkling of what they want to do, most of the time, in fact. You then talk to them about when they can change plans. So it depends a lot on the state you're in, but you give them an overall rule. So you talk to them about AEP, OEP, and the changes you can make during OEP, trial right. Everybody has a trial right regardless of the state you're in. So if you're turning 65, taking an Advantage plan for the first time, you have a 1-year trial right to switch to a supplement and a drug plan on a guaranteed issue basis. The other trial right, I know most of you probably know this, but the other trial right is if you've been on nothing but a supplement since you turned 65, and for the first time ever they want to try an Advantage, they then also have a 1-year trial right on guaranteed issue to switch back. But obviously, if you're in a guaranteed issue state, all-time guaranteed issue state, which the guaranteed issue states at all times are New York, Connecticut, Massachusetts, and Maine, that's a little different than a state that's non-guaranteed issue. You'll tend to, in the guaranteed issue states, get people more willing to try an Advantage plan, knowing they can always switch no matter what, versus an underwritten state where once they enroll, after the trial right's over, if they're unhealthy, they're not getting into a supplement. I talked a little bit over my next point here, but I'll just reiterate it once more. Explain to them how you operate. It's important. There's no fee to work with you. The carriers pay you. So you're not going to charge them anything. The rates are the same with or without you involved. That question comes up with me a lot. People have said, I forget to mention it. And they say, well, is this cheaper? No offense, Ed, but is this cheaper if I don't use you? No, it's the same price. Explain to them you have access to numerous plans. So once you determine if they want to go with the supplement or Advantage, you'll help them find the right type of plan, and you'll find them the one with the best price and benefits for what they want. Then, important step is to explain how they'll enroll. And this is where you determine, all right, are they okay with online links? Maybe I'll enroll them, connect for Medicare, take care of this right now, and you can do it electronically. You feel them out. You shouldn't try to force it. If they're good with online, then do it online. Makes sense. If not, you can email them an app. Before Connect for Medicare, that's how I always did it. Email them applications. So email them an app. They can print it out, sign it, fill it out the best they can, and email, fax, or mail it back to you. Let them know you'll scrub the applications. They always worry about doing things wrong. Say, listen, the only thing I can't make up for is signatures, so I'll scrub this thing. I won't set it in wrong. Also make them aware that you'll call them prior to AEP every year. So if you do business with me, one of the benefits is me or my office, we're going to call you prior to every AEP and see what you want to do. Do you want to stay on your current plan? Do you want to shop? We'll make that call. Now, if you're not making that call to your current clients, that's up to you. But it's much harder to get a new client on the books than it is to maintain one. So if you're not making those calls, I strongly recommend that you do make them. You'll retain your book so much better that way. And when it comes to Medicare, that's what it's all about. I mean, it's about renewals. As I said, if you're using a screen share, you'll want to use a visual aid. I'm going to go over that in a second. The visual aid certainly helps. But if you've got this thing simple enough and you know it well enough, you can do it over the phone. It's done over the phone often. I've done it hundreds of times over the phone. But what I use when I use the visual aid is I just use one page. I talk about everything I just talked about basically using one page. Now, if you want to add a couple more slides to talk about Medicare A and B benefits and A and B enrollment, that's fine. You can do that. But I base everything I do off of here. And it helps me. It reminds me, talk about A and B. How do they get A and B? Show them what their Medicare card's going to look like. Makes it easy. And then I can talk about, just as I did earlier, I can talk about their choices. Okay, here's original Medicare. It's actually insurance. Doctors, everybody bills original Medicare. You have two choices to help cover that 20% and get drug coverage. And then you go into your two choices, supplement and drug plan on the left or Medicare Advantage on the right. So I use this visual aid. I stay on this one page with them for about 20 minutes going through everything. I know some brokers that, like I said, they'll have additional slides that will talk about the other details. They want that actual visual aid. You can certainly do that. You just add a couple slides to this, but this is the one I always work off of. And a lot of brokers I know do use this page. This is off the UHC Clarity book, by the way. It's educational, approved for educational, so you can certainly use it. Here's the IRMA I was talking about. It's good to have this, at least to go through it with them or to email it to them at the least. Just shows them, here's IRMA. Here's, if you're making, it's based on 2 years prior, on your income 2 years previously. If you're making above this amount as an individual or married, here's where you're going to pay. Standard people pay $144.60, and it goes up from there. I mean, if you're as an individual over $500,000 or as a family or as a couple over $413, you're going to pay the $491.60 per person per month. Make them aware of it, and they adjust this every year, and it's always 2 years. Then you've got your, which I tend to forget, I don't anymore, but you've got your Part D IRMA as well, so don't forget that. Same thing. Falls into the same income brackets, so if they've got an IRMA for B, they're going to have one for D. And just so you know, on the Part D IRMA, if they have a standalone drug plan, they're just going to tack it onto the premium of the drug plan. But this can make a liar out of you with an Advantage plan. Let's say somebody's got a $31.50 IRMA on their drug plan, and you put them in a zero premium Advantage plan. The premium is going to be $31.50. So just make them aware. My plan is zero premium that I'm showing you, but you're going to have an IRMA penalty, so you're going to pay $31.50 a month for it. Make them aware. Okay, I just wanted to run through the strategy briefly. I'm going to answer questions here at the end. Just a couple other points. This strategy 100% works. Absolutely works. It's true and tested. It's worked forever, and it can work, like I said, online with a visual aid or through the phone. The only difference now is that we have the online enrollment available. It just used to be we always had to just email them apps and have them, print it, scan it, or fax it back to us. If they didn't have a printer or scanner, we'd mail them an app. But now we've got online enrollment. And as of 2021, Connect for Medicare will do the email and the text for them to sign the enrollment page and do the verification link to sign off. Make it a lot easier for you. As I mentioned earlier, I've recorded this webinar. I will send this out to everybody that registered. So you'll get a recording of this. So if I was talking too fast, you can listen to me talk too fast again. More power to you. If you can stand listening to me twice, that's great. I don't think I could do it, but that's up to you. Let me check and see if we have any questions along the way here. I think we had a few. I had somebody who said there's no audio. I think everybody's hearing me, so I'm sorry for that person. If there's no audio, they can't hear me, but I will send a recording so they get the recording. Do you have a simple, here's a good question. Do you have a simple way to explain the high deductible G? I mean, I do. Everybody will have a different variation on this. This isn't gospel. Like you can change it around to what you're comfortable with. But the way I explain high deductible G is I say, listen, Medicare is going to cover what they cover. What's left over, you're going to pay. So you'll pay that 20%. High deductible G does nothing with that 20%. They just keep track of it. So basically, this is with high deductible G, it's an 80-20 plan. You're covered at 80%. You pay 20%. If your 20% ever adds up to more than 2,100, I just forgot the deductible, whatever. If it adds up to more than $2,140, then high deductible G will cover you in full. So it's like an old school 80-20 indemnity plan with with the $2,340 out of pocket max. So you pay the 20%, high deductible G just tracks it. Once you've met your deductible amount, your out of pocket max, then you're covered. Just make it clear to them it's not a straight up deductible. They tend to think that. Part A deductible is covered by both supplements and MA plans. This question. Plans G and N both cover the Part A deductible. Advantage plans do, but you have cost share when you go to the hospital. So your average Advantage plan, different depending on the state you're in, but clients can be looking at $1,600 out of pocket in copays for hospital in the Advantage plan. But yes, essentially it is covered. Where can we get the slides on IRMA and the Medicare cards you showed? I can just email those out. That's a good question. I will email those slides out to you. I think that does it for our questions. Okay, well, I appreciate you coming on. Again, I recorded this. I'll email out the recording. If you have any questions, call us. Happy to talk to you about it. And remember, webinar Thursday and Friday. I think Fridays will be popular. Been waiting a while for that new nationwide plan, massive network, top 10 in the country. Really good commission, 17% level, $5,000 max. Waiting periods waived on tier 1 and 2, and on 3 as well if you have previous coverage. So I think that'll be a good one. Other than that, I don't see any other questions. I really appreciate everybody coming on today. If you have any questions, certainly you can call us at the office, 203-796-5403. We're still on reduced staff because of the COVID thing, so email might be better. You can always email Edward at CroneAssociates.com. Other than that, I appreciate your time today. Thanks for coming on, and I hope everybody has a great day.